Hello guys, welcome to my next episode of Operator's Table, where I host the best founders, associate, chief of staff, head of operations, people who are basically working in like early stage startups, companies, and are deeply involved in the startup slash technology ecosystem. Today we have a new guest, Kamil. I think it will be the best if you will introduce yourself. So like who you are, what you are currently doing. I don't know, maybe what is your favorite hobby?
Awesome. Okay. So I'm Kamil. I work in Tech3 at the moment with Tech3. Previously a chief of staff at Displate and quite a long time career with Netguru before and some startups before that. In my spare time, I love to sail, and that's my like number one hobby, sailing. But also a father of two, so lots of time devoted now to the little ones, which I also adore. It's a great adventure. Pretty much that's about me. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think we will later dive deep into your current role at Tech Tree. But actually, let's start at the beginning. Maybe you can tell me like what is your, I don't know, academic background? Like if you studied somewhere, if yes, if it was in Poland, abroad, what kind of course, what did you learn there?
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's actually a good start because I started my education like University of Economics in Poznan, and I have to say maybe it was the choice of a course, but I chose management, and it turned out to be an absolute bore. It was boring as hell, especially after quite intense high school. So I quickly joined some student organizations to fill up my calendar, and it was a great move to meet more people, learn new stuff, and be a bit more hands-on and practical about learning, new things. So kind of, I felt like the first 3 years of my college were kind of like a background for everything else. Also, lots of traveling back then, including work and travel for summer, and so on and so on. And then I wanted to study something more, um, I would say, like tangible, hands-on. I want to use the word concrete, but since I chose civil engineering, concrete can be like a misleading here. But yeah, I did later on engineering course, 3.5 years of concrete of construction engineering, civil engineering, which is an amazing field of study. I loved every minute of learning about this. I hated every minute working in this field. It's an absolute disaster to work in. For me, at least, it was absolute disaster to work in civil engineering. So fortunately, after just some summer internships, I was able to turn away from it. And I did my third year of civil engineering in Finland. Very luckily, when I arrived, it turned out this is probably the only course that lacked courses in English. I think it had courses in English every other year. I was lucky enough that when I arrived there was no courses in English, so I either finish or figure something out. And I figured something out, and I chose like courses from all over the university, the Technical University of Tampere. It was quite incredible year. I could feel like an American college student, like choosing your own courses from left to right, whatever interests you. And of course, coming back to Poland was a disaster because I had a huge debt to pay. I pretty much missed a year. I graduated by a skin of my teeth. But when in Finland, it was my first contact with agile project management and iterative approach towards achieving a goal, and lean startup, and so on and so on. Also very hands-on with kind of like a student accelerator program with some companies. So immediately when I came back to Poland, I knew I want to leave civil engineering field and join more tech startup scene. And in Poznan, the best way to do it was to join TEDx organizers in Poznan, which I did with my girlfriend, now wife, and this led me towards the network of startup founders, startup people, and this kind of like rolled through to my first job in a startup which was Pravna. Great experience. Then the second job with some startups, with a small agency in between, and then towards Netguru, and then rest is history. So I studied management in the very beginning, and after 10 years of work, I was manager, so kind of working in my educated field. But I have to say the best learning experience, like proper official learning experience and college experience I had that translated the most into my field of work was a 1-year course, postgrad course in service design. And I think this is really still underutilized knowledge and undervalued field of study. How much of what we do every day is a service that is properly designed for some people. In management, it translates very much into how you manage the team, organization, people, because that's my point of view at least. I design a space for others to work in and be successful, right? So it's like designing a good product or good service. Also, designing a good workspace is a process and a skill.
Okay. Thanks for the quick recap. Can you give me a little bit more details? What is like service design? Because I think I've heard this name mentioned a lot of times, but actually I don't know any other person in there from like circle of friends in Poland or abroad who might study this subject. And I think, at least from what you are describing, it sounds interesting. So maybe you can tell me a little bit more what you were doing there in the classes, and then also some 1 to 3 concrete examples, how you later take this experience learned in the university and how you like implement it in one of your jobs.
Absolutely. Thanks. It's a good thing to go deeper in. So service design, it's a field of study where you take into notion that everything we do, everything we interact with, is actually a designed thing. Even if it feels spontaneous, it means that maybe it's a design that nobody really paid attention to. It just kind of evolved like this. But if you take any product or we can start with services because it's easier. If you think of going to the post office and experiencing how it is to send a letter in the post office, it's a service that someone designed consciously or non-consciously. But in this field of study, we take a point of view of a client and try to understand what is their aim with us as a service provider, what is the pain that they're trying to solve or an opportunity that they see they want to use, and how can we, as a service provider, make it the most valuable, but also streamlined, easy, and kind of intuitive, pleasant way of achieving their goal. And when I was doing the course, to give an example of how we applied this, every person was part of the team, and every team had one client to work with throughout the year. I was working with a kindergarten. The kindergarten approached the university like a partnership to make a project, real life project, available for students. And we weren't given a very specific task in the beginning. The kindergarten gave us a green field and they said, figure it out. How can we make our service better? So you start not with solutions. Okay, let's make like more toys for kids. And instead we go into who actually is the receiver of the service. It's kids, but also it's parents, maybe even grandparents, maybe also local community and so on. We interview these people. We ask what are your expectations? What are your problems that currently are being solved or not being solved? How do you feel about this? Where is that? So first of all, try to really uncover what is possible to improve, and then with a very open mind come to ideas how you can improve it. Right? In the end, what we created with the kindergarten was a service for parents, not for kids. So we kind of changed how they interact with parents and how they educate parents about being better parents, which was very convenient, made sense. And then when I joined Netguru, it was pretty much the same moment in my life when I finished this course and joined Netguru. And we could very quickly apply these learnings into helping innovators and founders, especially, to come with a better, more polished idea for their digital service. Because sometimes clients would come over with a very clear idea what they want to do, and us being experts in field of digital digital products and transformations, naturally would challenge that and say, hey, why do you want to do this way? Like, what are your assumptions based on? How many interviews did you make, right? And is it only your gut feel, or do you have some data to prove that this is a real pain? And then also thinking about emotions, touch points, and how does the digital product feel? How does it feel to be used? Is it easy to be used, and so on and so on? Intuitive for all groups of people. Really, I can already feel like I'm talking a bit too much about this, but this is where my passion went into, right?
No, it's
designing for other people.
Okay. And who would you recommend this course? You think like every person that thinks of like working in startups or like in smaller, tighter technology companies, or maybe even like creating their own company in the future should like attend this course, or not that much?
I think there's so many things you can learn and so many useful things you can learn in life to be better at whatever you do. Probably we could also recommend everybody to take history classes or philosophy classes. But I think service design, I think it has very wide range of applications. I think I would recommend it to people who feel like who want to who enjoy taking a step back and looking at things at perspective, but also who are hands-on and like to build. It's a great tool set to learn how to build better, how to build, especially with more client-centric perspective.
Okay, thank you. So now I want to come back to the topic. You mentioned that you work at Pravna, and I see that you work there as chief of staff. So from what I recently researched quickly, Pravna is like I don't know if it's like a startup or more like an agency providing like different financial services. And I also think it was doing something with like the people who are working in the fields and like growing some vegetables and like whatever. There were also some part of business devoted to that. So first I want to ask you like, what is exactly Pravna doing? And like then what were your scope in there exactly?
No, I can't really answer that. I don't know what they're doing at the moment.
Okay.
Seriously,
But then at this time.
Yeah, of course. But it's to be fair, I know Marek is still it's not directly involved now with Pravna anymore. He has an amazing team that runs the business. He's a founder. I worked with a friend of mine, a founder, and he always had very growth-oriented mindset. So I can only imagine that the company evolved into very different things than when we started those 11, 12 years ago. When Marek started Pravna and asked me to be one of the first employees, we wanted to build a very first online legal service provider. So we kind of the very first setup that we had was one house with a garden rented in Poznań, and a bare house with 6 desks for a small in-house call center that we created and recruited, and I think 3 or 4 desks for lawyers, including one room that was a dedicated recording studio, because Marek had this clear vision that we want to be like kind of like media first legal agency, because he believed in new media as a way of communicating what we do and reaching specific groups of people. And
very future thinking, because I think right now it's this trend that like every company has their own podcast, their own social media team. So it was very futuristic thinking like 10 years ago or more even.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were very lucky to find in our very first team of lawyers, I think a set of 3 or 4 people. One of them was cool media personality. He was a natural. We just put him in front of a camera and started rolling, and every frame was successful with him.
Okay, perfect. So I didn't quite catch what you're responsible for. Like I know that like usually like it's for everything and every day is different. But you can
Yes,
maybe say like what were your like main areas that you had like more responsibility for and more outcome was devoted to like your work?
sure. Give me some credit because it was like 11 years ago, I think. But I think from the very beginning, we spent a lot of time in front of a whiteboard with Marek. So designing the service, designing the business model, designing customer journey, but also designing the external communications. How would we frame what we do? Marketing. We were creating the market. We were like creating the category. So it was also very difficult to find words and communication that would make people understand what we do quickly. Everything done on a shoestring with very little funding, very frugal. And then, as one of the first employees, yeah, you do everything. So one day I would literally lay cables on the floor for us to create this call center that we had. The other day, work with our IT department. It was just one guy, brilliant young guy, who was creating our internal software. Recruiting lawyers on one day, and on the other day recruiting people to the call center, right? And on the third day negotiating with marketing agency. On fourth, giving feedback and redesigning some user interface of our product or website. So every day something new.
So just finishing up on this like period in your life, I saw on your LinkedIn that it was memorizable to like buying a scooter. So what's the story about the scooter?
Oh yeah, because we had a small team of, yeah, I think like one or two people, paralegals, legal assistants, and we knew that they will have to go to the court every here and now, to some offices in Poznan every here and now. And in order to allow them to move faster on the city, we bought a scooter, and it served as our company vehicle.
It was not
also
an electric scooter yet, I
no,
suppose.
not yet. It was
Before
usual
the
like
old
Chinese
lime
scooter.
body round. Okay.
No,
No
proper
Xiaomi.
scooter.
Okay.
But the funny part was who was riding the scooter in a few weeks, because one day I think we ordered pizza, and one guy, a delivery guy, came over to our office and he brought us pizza, and I think it was Marek who was like taking the food from him. And the guy was so enthusiastic when he took a look at what we do in the office, and he saw what we were doing, and like how people are behaving in company. He was very enthusiastic about this, and a short conversation turned into a job offer. And Marek actually offered the pizza guy a job on the spot, right? Because he was so outgoing, so enthusiastic, and he became part of the team. I think one of the account managers in the end.
Okay, perfect. So after working there, what was the next step? I think you had some quite interesting step of trying to find something by yourself, and I think it was quite an interesting product from what I could read online. No?
Yeah, it was an interesting product. We built and developed a bird feeder set, a set to build your own bird feeder with kids, out of love for good design, tinkering, and just building. So we loved building new stuff with my then I think fiance or wife maybe already, and one of our friends. So three of us, we kind of designed how the perfect bird feeder looks like, but not only perfect bird feeder from the perspective of how does it look in your garden, but actually we make extensive interviews with ornithologists and zoologists to figure out what are the needs of the birds, how to incorporate, the hygienic or safety features that make the bird feeder to be safe for birds. But also for kids, how to build it, how to make it so that it's not only a product that's nice and easy to hang in your garden, but also on every step of the production process, you have to think, will it make it easy for people to build on their own? Will it make it easy for us to ship it? And since we wanted to make a very encapsulated bird feeder, so you get a box, you can open the box on the moon and build a bird feeder. Everything had to be inside: the seeds, screws, screwdriver, sandpaper, everything you need. also with some little leaflet about like which birds you can expect to come over and how to spot them and so on and so on. We wanted to give parents something that is going to be very meaningful time with their kids. Not only they build something together, but then they can use it together as well. And I think it actually outlived our expectations, because financially it wasn't a success. We were selling this couple hundred units, I guess, but lots of manual work from us, and also the scale that doesn't allow to make a lot of money. But it was probably never about the money. Instead, it kind of also got us into the startup scene. And at some point, I think my wife even won some kind of pitch contest in Poznan. It was funny because everybody was pitching some, maybe not AI then, but tech heavy solutions, and we just pitched, hey, this is a bird feeder, you can build it, and you can own it. And I think we had some ideas about investing in autonomous cameras for bird recognition. And conversations about this on some of the startup weekends led us to meet friends who then offered me a job in one of their startups, which is how I joined NativeTap and NextData, two companies kind of at the same time. One of them, then they split, and I stayed with NativeTap for a year and a half, which was also a wild ride because I was the first non-technical hire, except like HR operations girl. But I was first like semi-technical, so product guy, and also was doing everything that fell into my desk. So from designing some hardware solutions on CNC machining some components, product to customer development calls, pitching in front of investors in San Francisco with our founder. So yeah, left to right, wild ride for a year and a half, trying to figure out how can we coin a great product out of an incredibly innovative technology. In the end, it turned out our team was very, I think, enthusiastic, inspired by the technology they kind of discovered, but we failed to find a good use case for a product like that in the market.
Okay, and maybe just to clarify for the audience, what was the NativeTap doing?
So NativeTap found, like, our engineers and founders, that we found a way how to make a remote mobile phone believe it lays next to your laptop, and how to make your laptop believe it has a mobile phone connected to it. And the use case we aimed for was for Android developers, because the Android market is, but also was, very fragmented by then. And the notion that your app works on one make and model, but breaks on the other, was very frequent back then. So we wanted to have hundreds of mobile phones in our server room and make them available remotely to your laptop for debugging and testing. And we did this by very heavily going into the very kernel of Android operation system and connecting the device to your laptop, to your Android Studio. And everything worked, but really we failed to find a very good market fit and to create a product out of the technology.
Okay, and if you would compare like working in Pravna, so it's like one of the first person on board, and in NativeTap, like how would you compare, like what was different and what was the same? Maybe, I don't know, we have different relationship with the founder.
No, I think it was in some ways it was very, very similar, right? So a small team moving fast, founder with lots of creativity, strong vision. NativeTap at the time was for sure was much more tech oriented. So it was like today we would call it a deep technology company, whilst Pravna was a technology enabled service company. And NativeTap was externally funded to the greater extent. So from the very first couple of months, when NativeTap got the funding, the team was already 10 engineers, right, and brilliant people. So very different dynamics. And I think also with, of course, from a business model perspective, when you have a service company, you try to find revenue very quickly. You need to find quick revenue, and services, actually, that's a great advantage of services, that the first revenue is easy to build. With a digital product, it takes a lot of upfront spending, OpEx spending, to build a product that at some point can be used and can generate money. So I left Pravna before it turned profitable, but we already were making revenue. I left NativeTap pre-revenue still.
Okay. All right. So what was the next step after the NativeTap? I think Netguru, right?
It was, because I loved that my job evolved a bit more towards working with development team. And in NativeTap, I was also kind of acting product person, but also acting as Scrum Master in a way. And I felt like this is something that I want to explore more in my life, but I wanted to be around more people who do the same. I was kind of, I wouldn't say burnt out, but tired of being the only person in the room with such a role. Right? I didn't feel like I have someone I can learn from, at least directly. Of course, indirectly, taking a lot from the team, brilliant team I worked with, but directly looking at how people do stuff I do every day, I missed that. So I joined Netguru, and I was kind of 15th project manager in the team, employee number 160, I guess. I mean, not numbers wise, but 160 people in Netguru when I joined.
Mm-hmm.
And it was awesome. I think also the culture of Netguru was great, in a sense that when I joined as a junior project manager, I think on my second or third week, I just got a client and someone said, "Hey, Kamil, this is your client. This is your project now." I was a bit anxious, but I said, "Okay, I can do it. That's fine. I can manage." And I think next day or two, I read on Slack, "Hey, by the way, everyone, we just landed our biggest client yet." And Kamil is running the project. And it was maybe not the biggest client, but it was a breakthrough client for us. And I felt, at the same time, I felt a lot of weight of this, right? I'm a newbie, I'm a junior, and this is a client that we believe is kind of a important client for us. On the other hand, it felt great that people trust you so easily and so early, and give you a lot of accountability. And this never changed in Netguru. And Netguru for me was a amazing ride in learning how to take more accountability, more decision making, how to be more confident in making choices and arriving at this decision to escape this decision limbo and an overthinking loop.
Okay. And how your career progression looked like in Netguru? What were the next steps? Because I think you stayed there quite a long time, right? 6 or 8 years. I don't know if I counted correctly. 8 years.
No, 8 years. Yeah. It was great, because, like I said, I started when I joined. It was 160 people, and from a time perspective, a fairly simple business model, and pretty much one segment of clients, quite easy projects. And every year, Netguru evolved into more and more complex beast, in a positive way. At some point, we were 1,000 people, and it means that those 8 years was never boring, because it was several companies at the same time, right? It was a 160 people company, but then after a year it's already 250, and after another year it's 400 people. So everything's changing, and we are opening towards new markets, and we're opening new services, and we are evolving, or then shrinking, because my last 2 years in Netguru, we experienced a shrinking of the headcount. So also quite tough but also invaluable experience to be a manager in a company that has to lay people off, that has to consolidate positions and redesign how departments work to make the most out of the thinner team. So I never got bored in Netguru, and I worked as a project manager, then as a team leader for a team of a few project managers. Then I asked to be again on the individual contributor position, but we created a unique position in the company as an agile lead, where I was not working directly with any of our development teams because we already had like 80 teams back then, but I worked more on skills, education, processes, communication, tools to enable those teams to be more and more agile and successful. And then I think it's a great twist of events that I never wanted to be a manager in Netguru. And Mateusz, who was my leader back then, he just asked me, "Hey, Kamil, one of our managers abruptly left. I need someone for interim to fill in this position for 3 months until I can hire someone else. You're experienced enough. People trust you. I would like you to step in and just take it for 3 months." And I said, "Okay, for 3 months I can take it. I don't want this to be my permanent job." And I loved that job. So it
Why
turned
did you
out
love this job at the end?
because with experience of being a team leader, now I got to be a leader of team leaders. And I started with a team of team leaders that were not experienced and with some challenges how to run their teams. And with my experience, I immediately saw I can help them to become to fill the role that they want to fill, right? Because I knew how to do it before. In a sense, it was easy because I really knew how to run their jobs to be successful. So I was able to coach them into doing this. And also, these were people I used to work with before. Some of them were in my teams before, so we had good relations, lots of trust. So I could step in, and from the very first day, I could create more clarity about how I want to run the department and the team. So I think two things combined. One is leading people is something I always enjoyed, and at this moment, I also was very capable of doing so because I knew how to run their positions, so I could help them a lot. And the second thing is, it was the first time I could really design a system in which my skills and the skills of my team were applied at scale. So we were building tools, processes, habits, skills to leverage what I do, teach my team how to do it, and then they would teach project managers how to do it. So seeing that what you do has an immediate effect at scale of first 12 people, but at some point my team was over 35 people. It was very satisfying for sure.
Okay, so after 8 years at Netguru, you changed and you joined again, I would say, as like a chief of staff in Displate.
Yes, because I felt, and I was very open about this with Netguru, with my boss and our founders, that I think 8 years was enough. And I told Mateusz, was my boss then, I think in January, I told him, "Hey, I'm gonna slowly look for something else. Let's keep working. Let's keep doing great work together. But I want to get a bit away from software delivery and software development as a field." It was, I guess I lost a bit of a spark for solving people's problems through software. But also I felt that back then AI software development was very infant stage, but no code and low code software development was becoming more and more visible to me as a trend. And I think I felt that the business model of software development agency has its prime behind it. And as an employee, we have a freedom to leave a business we kind of stop believing in, right? Or at least we don't want to devote our future years to it. So I think I just wanted to try something else, and I was thinking, what are the roles and what are the positions I can leverage what I like to do the most. And since building software wasn't it anymore, but building organizations was, I was looking for a chief of staff position to, or like transformation manager position to with a company to join. And through common friends, I was introduced to Bartek, who was CEO of Displate. We had a few meetings, a recruitment process, and I joined in August. And company was, I think, roughly 500 people back then. And Displate is a very interesting company on Polish scene because it's a startup, it's a tech company, but at the same time it's a production company. So when you think of 500 people, remember that half of them work in production plants, right? Actually, like they work on the floor of production plant and they every day print posters.
Yeah, I think that's important to add that, like, as you said, like it is kind of like maybe it was in the same way of working like a startup, but at the end, like it's also like different business model because Displate is like selling metal plates, like of like different artists and organizations. So completely something else. So yeah, like you went quite far from like delivering software and like having projects with different clients who maybe want some mobile web solutions, right?
Yeah, but I think that's maybe an insight for everyone who's thinking about jumping not only position but jumping a business model or like jumping really to a different career path. Because to be fair, like when you look at my career, going into delivery director in Netguru and then jumping towards chief of staff doesn't really make much sense. But when I joined Displate, it was very clear for us, for my team, and for me that I joined with a set of skills that are kind of new and unique to Displate with my background. So I joined as in the rank of manager, of senior manager, but with a very hands-on experience in technology. So kind of like, I wouldn't say like CTO, but or like chief product officer, but in a sense, for it, probably I was the person who would understand our like chief product officer's decision or thinking process the most, and I could chip into to his brainstorming the most, right? Thinking about automating, think about AI, but also recruiting for tech roles and auditing some tech roles, recruiting or auditing how business departments in the company cooperate with tech departments and where this cooperation is failing and how can we help. This was where I could bring my set of competences and apply it to very new environment and very new problems sets.
Okay, so when you joined her there after the beginning talks and also like maybe the onboarding period, in here as like a chief of staff, you had already more defined scope because like it was the bigger organization, and as you said, you were bringing the skills that like it was clear that like you will use the skills like either to like I don't know transform the company to the next level in specific areas, or like you came here to like repair something that maybe was like not broken, but maybe before there was no such person dedicated to improving some part or processes of the company.
Mm-hmm. For sure, it was more clearly cut role, and it had three components, I would say, and we were clear about this. So first of all, my biggest mission was to bring a bit more order into something that's called like company operation system. How do we run the company in a cadence? What is the set of metrics that we look at? How often do we look into those? How do we define goals? How do goals translate into our weekly meetings and so on and so on? So like, how do you think of a information flow throughout the company so people know what are we after, but also it's kind of like actionable. So not only strategy as a document, but also strategy applied. And I was lucky, and I think this was a great job done by Bartek and his team and also advisors, Marcin, before me joining, that when I joined, we had super clear deck with Displate strategy for next couple of years. So first part of being a chief of staff in Displate is operation framework for the company. And second part is being like a right hand to a CEO, in a sense, something between an assistant and like more senior assistant, I'd say. So I'm also not ashamed and not afraid to say, being a ghostwriter for our CEO at times, preparing some materials for him. Of course, it's not like I would write something and Bartek just press enter and it send it, but a lot of times I prepared the first draft and then we iterated on this. I refined some communications and so on. Everything that can lift some time from his calendar, right, and give him back some time. Prepare him for some recruitment interviews with more senior roles and so on. And the third part of the role was what we called special projects, and it meant planned special projects, but also unplanned special projects. So planned special projects were easier to understand. So maybe there's a part of a business that is struggling with some tools, and a planned special project I was leading was to support our business development team to embrace CRM better and how to reignite CRM in their team, because they used to, then they kind of maybe lost it, and I was helping to rebuild it, document how it's used, and also train people how to use the tool. But also unplanned projects where sometimes someone will tell you, hey, there's a team struggling, please help them out. But sometimes as a chief of staff, you need just to have an ear to the ground and find it yourself. And an example of this was when Donald Trump announced tariffs in July last year, and he gave very little time for companies to adapt, like 4 weeks or so. And our teams started to work on a solution for this, but I was just curious how it's going after a week or so. I joined one of the meetings, and I quickly realized there's a room of very competent people, but maybe the scope of the project is not clear enough. And also there is lack of clear ownership about decision making, because when you have a project that only lasts 3 or 4 weeks, because it's an emergency project, you cannot rely on democratic decision making alone, right? So, and there was no one in the room who felt comfortable to say, I lead this, listen to me, I'm making the decisions here, I'm cutting discussions in half. And I felt like this is something I have to do, right? So I joined the call, I looked for 15-20 minutes, I asked who's running the project. Nobody raised a hand. I said calmly, okay, I'll run it, it's okay. Tomorrow we meet again. I added some more structure to the project so we could actually finish on time, because it was emergency project that was missing an emergency project manager, right?
Yeah. Okay, and do you think that because also talking with other chief of staff or founders associate, I'm also getting this feeling that of course it depends how big is the organization, but of course the bigger organization, as you said, the more you need to see if the company is running smoothly, maybe attend some meetings with specific teams if everybody are aligned, or KPIs or OKRs that you have, or if they are running smoothly, if they know what is happening in the company, if they are doing their work efficiently, aligned with the strategy. So would you say this person needs to be for example, I don't know, more extrovert, or being good with talking with people and reading them, or it doesn't actually matter?
It's a good question. I don't really know. I haven't met a lot of chief of staffs, but for me, definitely what was helping in the role was my ability to meet new people easily and to build relationships easily, because the role has, it's a kind of a dual role. On one hand, you are a senior manager by rank, So kind of what you say becomes decision and becomes true, right? If I want to to make an impact in the company, I want to make some change, likely I can do it. But at the same time, you don't have a team, you don't have a very clear, at least I didn't have a very clear accountability about any part of business per se. So when I wanted to make any major change in the company, I had to be quite political about this and explain to some of the C-level members, like, why do I want to change something, or to directors, to managers, or directly with some team, like, why do I want to for them to change what they do. So what helped was an in-office presence, because Displate has a very vibrant living office, very cool place. So I was in the office almost every day, and also not having a desk. I was always on a hot desk. I would just sit 2 weeks with one team and then pack my stuff and go to the other team for the next 2 weeks. Sometimes the teams were surprised. In the very beginning, the teams were also anxious, like, why is this guy joining us? Why is he listening to what we're talking about on the open space? Why is he trying to join us for lunch? But after a few months, it became clear that when I joined and when I listened to their conversations, like, I joined in. I can bring some good ideas and some solutions. I can probably also unblock some of the problems they have. I can bring some of the problems to the management team and get some solutions. So for sure, being a people person helps.
Okay. And also, like, there are roles, I think, that is easier to actually see if you are performing good, like if you know that, like, you are delivering a good job. Because let's take an, I don't know, like SDR or a salesperson, like how much revenue per month are you bringing to the company, or like how many meetings you are scheduling. It's kind of quantitative. You can measure it directly with numbers. So let's say a marketing growth lead, like how many hot leads you bring to the company that later turned or convert from website to, let's say, clients. But like, I know that like a lot of like chief of staff or founders associate, they actually don't know if they are doing the job good, because I think there are not like clear guidelines there. The like position is like really depending from the company. So like, how you were knowing if you're actually performing the good job, or like, I know you were talking with like other people, with the teams, they were giving you feedback, or with the founders, how it looked like at your case at Displate.
I mean, Tomek, you did great homework here. I think I've never felt so much. Well, never. Yeah, in 10 years probably, I haven't felt this much of imposter syndrome and like challenging myself. Am I doing good job? Because it's being a chief of staff. Yes, of course you can have some very quick wins. Like, I can make a very clear and great CEO letter to the company, or I can recruit someone. I can help a team. I can unblock someone today. I can go into the office, talk with someone, and then find a solution. But these are all very small winnings. And in the end, by the end of the day, you ask yourself, am I making an impact in the company that justifies my salary and my presence in the company? And those tiny wins won't, right? And the big impact, although, is influencing how the management team works or how the company operates, but it's a long-term game. And and also sometimes you make a decision. I made those decisions, like, hey, I want to redefine how these meetings look like. I changed the agenda, tools, and so on and so on. I believed in the better idea, and then after 6 weeks, I see no progress, or I see even like we're actually worse off than we were. So sometimes you make a step back, and I think it's very difficult to judge exactly, like, are you bringing enough value? Of course, you can have a set of clear goals, and I used to have a set of clear goals with my principal, yearly and quarterly goals. Funnily enough, we always left a room for emergency project, right? And said, hey, let's not fill my calendar with planned stuff, because the role is also important to handle unplanned stuff. Getting feedback from your boss is super important, and from the team. And this is something that wasn't helping, because in Netguru, I was very accustomed to feedback 360 every 3-6 months. It was very natural for everyone in the company to share this feedback. Displate didn't have this habit, at least not to this extent. So it kind of I kind of felt like I'm missing this, and I realized very quickly I'm missing the external validation part. It probably doesn't help also that your boss is the most busy person in the company, and if you like want to grab a coffee and talk about your feedback, it's not always easy. But I think yes, having clear expectations and feedback with your boss is the best way to measure your success. Having good measurable goals, yes, but the role kind of eludes it, in my opinion. It's something that usually is a good proxy of whether you're doing a good job in a kind of glue role, and I think chief of staff to some extent is a glue role as well, is if you talk with people, whether they would recommend you for a role, not because you're looking for a new role actively, but just saying, hey, if your colleague was looking for chief of staff, would you recommend me? If not, yes. If yes, why? If no, why not? And this was my prompt to ask some members of a C-level team about how do they perceive my value added to the company and to the role.
Okay. So the last question about this period of your life. Summing up everything about like this chief of staff or like working closely with like C-level or founders, what is like the perfect like person with, I don't know, either skills, personality traits, characteristics that you think would be a perfect chief of staff? Or if it's easier, maybe from the reverse, like what people would not perform good in this position?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a very open role, and across different companies, it means different things, and also has a very wide range of seniority. Even looking at my career, I started as a chief of staff, and then 12 years later, chief of staff again. Of course, a very different approach to the role, very different seniority, a very different company. But I think what is a common denominator in my startup experiences pre-Netguru and now post-Netguru is not trying to be the frontman. And understanding this about myself, it was very liberating that I don't want to be a frontman. I don't need to be a CEO of a team to be successful and to feel happy about my role in a team. And I watched the interview with Kamila that you made, and she said something about like ego, not having a strong need for like being on the front. I think it's important. It's a trait some people have. Some people need to be the leader. Some people don't. But at the same time, what helps is being charismatic and being a people person, because in the end, you get a lot of stuff done by inspiring others to join you. They don't need to join you in a way. It was very seldom I could tell someone, here's an executive order, you need to do something for me. It was more of, can you do me a favor? And sometimes those favors were huge and it required a lot of time and effort. And for sure, being a self-starter. It's a role that most of the time you have to look around and figure out what's the most valuable thing you can do today, and then start doing this. Things that will inhibit your success are if you need to ask for permission too much and are kind of anxious, maybe afraid of making decisions yourself, and overthinking stuff, right? So like trying to do stuff in a perfect way. The list of things to do in a company is always long enough for you to pick something new every day. So switching context also helps. Like if you're able to switch contexts quickly, but for sure understanding when the task is done and being able to communicate that it's done and seeing through the implementation, that's important. So you can pick something new and pick wisely, for sure.
Okay, thanks. So I think we managed actually to close the loop from the beginning. So maybe you can tell, recently you changed your position and job. Also, I think to kind of a different field.
Oh,
Then,
yes.
yeah, so I think it's quite interesting, especially at the beginning, to be in a new environment with new people. So tell me what you are currently doing in Tech
Mhm.
Tree and what is Tech Tree in general.
Okay. Yeah, Tech3 is an AI first recruitment service company. So with a very strong in-house technology and an incredible amount of uh, candidates and jobs data we sit on, we can make incredibly fast and accurate recommendations to our clients about who should they talk to as potential hires. So we are providing companies with pre-screened and handpicked candidates for various recruitment roles and for especially for roles that are difficult to fill. So tech roles, but also leadership, management, sales. We focus mostly on technological companies because we find it they're easier to talk to from our perspective. They can quickly understand what we're doing. I joined because um, I was captivated by the product, but also the team and the founders. And we talked with Pavel, and he suggested I join to kind of open up Tech3 for enterprise and bigger companies, because currently it has a very good market fit with startups, with really top startups from Poland and all over the world as well. Tech3 is growing incredibly fast, but we want to find a better fit between our offer and our service and needs of enterprises. And here we can also make a small, detour towards service design, because Tech3 is already a really well designed service for startups, but needs of hiring managers in large enterprises are a bit different. So I need to, and this is my mission in Tech3 is to redesign, like fork the service, redesign it a bit to needs of other people. Then maybe also build a team to deliver service to those companies. And I have to say, so far it's incredible ride. Joining with like 15 people company again, I feel like I'm rewinding time again to the times of Pravna and NativeTap, and the energy of a small team is incredible. Of course, this requires everyone to be very much hands-on in the team. So this is also a change for me, from having a 30 people team in Netguru at some point now to Displate 500 people, but maybe no direct reports every day, but still now to having no team and having to do a lot by myself, and also working with the team that already is in the company to deliver the service. Yeah, incredible, especially in time of AI. I feel like small teams have a great edge, and being a very tightly knit team, what kind of surprises me and what I really enjoyed about my last week was we're talking about some tools and how I would like to add something to our application internally, and our CTO just said, just do it, just code it. Just code the prototype. I will give you an endpoint. You can reach for the data. I can give you the data you need. You build the prototype. If after 2 weeks we want to incorporate the prototype into our app, we'll do it. And it's an approach that I absolutely love, and it's an approach that I cannot imagine meeting in large companies at this point yet. Right?
I think it touches upon the period when you also said that you were like to build things. You were a builder, for example, with the bird feeders. So now you are coming back, but now enhanced with like AI or the tools, you
Yeah.
can actually build software or like build small tech solutions.
Yeah. And I think, last couple of months I was tinkering a lot with AI. Both personal projects and maybe some business ideas. It's absolutely a renaissance for builders. Right? I was working with development teams for 8 years, and a lot of times I felt like I was very jealous that they can bring their ideas to life and now it's a time to bring those ideas alive. Of course, even built products are commodity today just because of this reason. So distribution is now the most valuable part, and data and network. And this is also like maybe a good thing to say about a good interesting thing to say about Tech3 is that it's not only a technology, but it's also incredibly wide network of freelance talent partners who are working with us to reach candidates and source candidates, and really unimaginable set of data that we own and we can use to leverage our service. So the era of tech services is huge. I feel like the closest from my past companies was Pravna. So the tech-based new era service company, and I believe Tech3 is pretty much on the same level. So AI first service company with a heavy engineering team.
Perfect. Okay, so I think we'll wrap up. Last thing, if you have maybe any tip or like taken from your experience or you are seeing right now for like potential people who are thinking of being chief of staff, either in like smaller, bigger organization, more tech-enabled, what would you give them? Or like maybe based on your experience of getting all these jobs, how would you approach like getting a job as chief of staff? Like DMing founder on LinkedIn or email, or like what would you do right now?
Okay, so two questions, right? One is how to get this job, and second is what do I recommend to learn to land the job?
Yeah.
How to get the job? I think it's much easier through your network. It's much easier if you are known in your network to be a go-getter, self-starter person. And there is probably dozens of ways how to do it. My tip would be to engage in NGOs or like extracurriculum activities. So everything that's not salary related. Every work you do without a salary is probably how you meet people with great drive, and you can show that you really are internally motivated to achieve stuff. Now, how to build a skill set that gets you the job? I'll try to be very like as hands-on and possible and as actionable as possible. So I'll just recommend a book and a video on YouTube. A book is this one. It's a Ken Watanabe problem rozwiązanie, which also is in English problem solving 101. Ken Watanabe was a McKinsey consultant, and he wrote this book for his kids. So it's if you know a book called McKinsey Way, this one is the same book, but it has 121 pages, lots of drawings of animals inside. I think I bought 40 copies of this throughout my career, and this is number one gift I give to everyone who joins my team. Sadly, the book is no longer in print, so you need to scout on Allegro or some old bookshops. And the video I would recommend is to watch Dave Snowden when he explains in 8 minutes what Cynefin framework is. Cynefin is spelled with C, CY, and so on. But CY is the tricky part. And Dave teaches how to understand which situation are you in and choose your tool set and response method to the particular situation you're in. And Ken Watanabe, he teaches how to make a robust plan that gets you from as is to be and work only on things that matter. And I think those two combined are a very powerful set already.
Okay, perfect. I think it's a perfect closure for our episode. So thank you very much, guys. I hope you liked the conversation with Kamil today, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you,
bye.
Thanks for having me. Bye.